Hi, my name is Joseph Parker, WBO champion of the world, and you're watching Sporting Icons.
Now, over the last day or so, I've been seeing quite a lot of comments from people saying how the belts that Anthony Joshua has are in fact Tyson Fury's. Tyson Fury never lost him in the ring, and Anthony Joshua is a political champion. Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hearn, somehow they manipulated the sanctioning bodies to strip Tyson Fury. This is what people are saying. I'm like, well, where's this come from? Because I haven't made a video on Anthony Joshua in, I don't know, probably about a week now, I think. But now I know where it's come from. It's come from an IFL video, which is Big John Fury with Billy Joe Saunders when they're talking to Colin Hart, who of course is a sports journalist. Now, John Fury, he's saying how Colin Hart and all the other journalists are not really praising Tyson Fury. Now, what people are not realising, first of all, is that this is actually rehashed footage from IFL. And Coogan, you should know better than this, that you're not allowed to be doing this on YouTube if you've already got the footage up, unless you delete the original. But it's actually from 2016. All right, so this is not a new clip. It's not something new that John Fury has just said. But John Fury, of course, he will always defend his kids. Tyson Fury, of course. Currently, he's saying how Tyson Fury is the greatest heavyweight to have ever lived, blah, 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 blah. And there's nothing wrong in the world with him saying that. And he can keep on saying it until proven wrong. So far, he's been proven right, okay? Tyson Fury, he's a two-time world heavyweight champion. He's undefeated. He ended the reign of Vladimir Klitschko and ended the reign of Deontay Wilder. But of course, we all know that he's still got to face the likes of Anthony Joshua, Dillian Whyte, and Usyk, and what have you as well. Maybe a Daniel Dubois or Joe Joyce a little bit further down the line as well to properly cement it. But so far, Tyson Fury, he's looking the real deal, right? But John Fury, he will always back his kids to the hilt. And believe me, it won't be long before he starts saying Tommy Fury is the greatest light heavyweight that has ever lived. And start talking about his DNA and it's in the blood and all this kind of thing. So expect that from John Fury at some point. Now, when it comes to Anthony Joshua holding the belts, that they are in fact Tyson Fury's and Anthony Joshua the paper champion. Let's be real about this one. Now, I've seen the video for Ring IQ and big up to Julius. Done a fantastic take on this one. He really did. And the reality of this whole situation is that the belts Anthony Joshua has are not Tyson Fury's. Tyson Fury, yes, he didn't lose him in the ring because he wasn't fighting for 2.5 years. Now, when you look at the IBF, right after he defeated Vladimir Klitschko, he did get stripped of the IBF. The IBF are notorious for it, okay? They've stripped, as I said there, Tyson Fury. They've stripped Canelo. They've stripped Triple G. They've stripped quite a few people. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what kind of money that you bring to the table. They have their rules and they will stick to it. Whether you like it, whether you don't, we have to give the IBF credit because they have their rules and they're in place and they will enforce their rules. So there is no cash cow and there is no kind of conspiracy. They do it to quite a few fighters. So them stripping Tyson Fury was a case of, well, there's a couple of points on this one. First of all, when Tyson Fury defeated Vladimir Klitschko, he had a rematch with Vladimir Klitschko that he agreed to when he didn't need to agree to it. Why? Because he was the WBO mandatory. When you're mandatory, you don't need a rematch clause. You don't need one, but he signed one anyway. Vladimir Klitschko clearly asked for one. A few went, yeah, okay, and signed. He didn't need to do that, but he did. Much like he has with Deontay Wilder. He's got his third fight happening. People say that how Tyson Fury, he didn't have enough time to fight Deontay Wilder toward the end of this year, then fight Dillian Whyte, and then fight Anthony Joshua. There's not enough time, so therefore Dillian Whyte should be pushed to the side. Well, he signed a rematch. He didn't need to. He was mandatory. Okay, so same situation now as what it was back then. Now, he's mandatory after he defeated Vladimir Klitschko, and the reason that he got stripped was Glasgow. Now, Glasgow, quite why he was mandatory, I have absolutely no idea. But he was, and the IBF ordered it. But Fury couldn't fulfill it because he was going to have a rematch with Klitschko, which of course we know didn't transpire due to Tyson Fury going off the rails and doing what it was that he'd done. And one hell of a comeback, right? Let's be honest. Now, that's the reason why he got stripped. But he could have avoided that if him and his team, whether it be him himself, whether it be Mick Hennessy at the time, I don't quite know what Frank Warren's involvement was back then either. Maybe he was his trainer and uncle at the time in Peter Fury, or maybe it was John Fury. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't have thought so because John Fury hadn't long got out of prison at that point. But what they could have done was got hold of the IBF to ask for an exemption. They could have done that, and if you do that with the IBF, if you do that with any sanctioning body, they will always grant you at least one exemption. So they could have done it, but they didn't do it. 2 months later, he gets stripped of it. So that's his own team's fault as far as that one goes. But to say that Anthony Joshua had something to do with it is ridiculous. At that point, Joshua was just fighting Dillian Whyte at that point. There was no talk about him fighting for a world title. I know people were saying, is he going to become a world champion? When can we see him knocking on the door of the world champions? But people were talking about a few fights later, when Joshua gets to about 20 fights in. At this point, Joshua was just having his 15th professional fight. Now, because that IBF became vacant, Glasgow, who was the manager, fought for that belt, and he fought Charles Martin. Charles Martin defeated Glasgow because Glasgow, he twisted his knee, I believe it was his knee, in the fight. Charles Martin became champion. Tyson Fury even went into the ring and congratulated Charles Martin on that win as well. And the very same night was when Fury got into the ring after Deontay Wilder defeated Arthur Spilker. And a lot of you guys will remember there's only one Tyson Fury speech that Fury gave. So that was all in the same night. So what's Joshua going to do with that? Absolutely nothing. Charles Martin, he had that belt. Al Heyman, the PBC, his team reached out to Anthony Joshua. Joshua didn't reach out to Charles Martin, by the way. Charles Martin reached out to Anthony Joshua about defending his belt against Anthony Joshua. That's why Joshua then got removed from the WBC rankings, because he fought for the IBF world title. Hopefully you guys are with me so far. Now, when it comes down to it, okay, so Charles Martin, he could have fought Deontay Wilder for a unification. He could have went that route, but he didn't. He went the Anthony Joshua route. Why? Because Joshua, big money, right? And he come up short, got stopped in 2 rounds. Pathetic performance by Charles Martin. But there again, maybe it's a great performance by Anthony Joshua. You can see it however you want to see it. So Anthony Joshua becoming champion, how is that Anthony Joshua's fault that Tyson Fury got stripped of the IBF? That's not his fault. Much like it's not his fault that Joshua owns the WBO belt. Because again, the WBO, that went vacant. And Andy Ruiz Jr. took on Joseph Parker for the vacant belt over in New Zealand. Joseph Parker beat Andy Ruiz Jr. He then defended it against Razvan Krajanu, then Hughie Fury. And then he went with Anthony Joshua. So there's actually quite a few defences of the WBO. Same with the IBF. The belt was vacant, Charles Martin won it, and then he went and defended it against Anthony Joshua. The only one that was vacant that didn't get passed around like a hot potato was the WBA, when Anthony Joshua unified against Vladimir Klitschko for the vacant WBA world title. Of course, the IBO was on the line as well. But again, that's because Vladimir Klitschko was owed a rematch. That's why he was there. And Anthony Joshua, in his 19th professional fight, stood up and took the challenge. Anthony Joshua, who's got all these belts and has defended them. Fury never defended them, not one time. So what is it that people expect to happen? So Tyson Fury, he decides to quit boxing for 2.5 years. What? Do you expect the whole boxing world to just stand still? Do you expect the heavyweight belts that he had to not get passed around? To get put on hold until Tyson Fury is fit and able to come back, if he comes back? Of course not. But again, if you want to go with the same narrative about Anthony Joshua as the paper champion, then we can look at it and say, well, Tyson Fury must be the paper champion also, right? With the WBC. Deontay Wilder, he lost that belt to Fury. Deontay Wilder won that belt from Bermane Stiverne. But where did Bermane Stiverne get that belt from? From a vacant WBC World Heavyweight title. It was vacant when he defeated Chris Arreola, of all people. Why? Because Vitaly Klitschko also took a long time not defending that belt. So he had the belt taken from him and he subsequently retired. So therefore, there's been Bermane Stiverne, he won the belt, then Wilder, then Fury. So Fury's actually the third one down the line. Did he not? Anthony Joshua with the WBO. So the belt was vacant. Got Joseph Parker. He defended it a couple of times and then fought Anthony Joshua. The IBF was vacant. Got defended against Anthony Joshua. So what's the difference? There is no difference. So let's be real about it. And for those who are saying that these are Tyson Fury's belts, you are an absolute moron. You're a moron. If you're not a moron, then quite clearly you're not up to speed with how everything transpired. And you're just running with the narrative that they are Tyson Fury's belts because you like Fury and you don't like Joshua. That's all it is. So no, John Fury is wrong. Anthony Joshua is not a political champion because Anthony Joshua had nothing to do with Tyson Fury getting stripped. Nothing to do with it. Joshua didn't come along until about a year or so later and fought for that IBF world title. So let's be realistic about it. Okay, so if Anthony Joshua is a paper champion for all those belts, then Tyson Fury is also a paper champion for the WBC because he never beat the true champion, Vitaly Klitschko. True? Okay. Drop your thoughts below. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all in the next video.